around 8 lines from the bottom. Rav Yemar have a yodele sahaduso. Rav Yemar knew testimony, and he came to give testimony to Mazutra. He knew testimony about Mazutra. He came to Ameimar, asvina lakulu. So he sat them down. Right, so we had yesterday a conversation. So we had a machlokes, Rabbi Yehuda and Tanakama, whether you're allowed to sit down the Balei Dinam. The Edom for sure have to stand, but the Balei Dinam is machlokes Rabbi Yehuda and Tanakama whether they're allowed to be seated. And over here, what did Ameimar do? Ameimar sat him down. Asked the Gemara, "Amar ula machlokes Balei Dinam." Aval be'edem divrei hakol b'amida. Here, Rav Yemar was an aid. He wasn't a baldin. So if he was a baldin, so there's room, there's wiggle room, right? Rabbi Yehuda holds you're allowed to sit him down. But if he's an aid, he has to stand. Homelei hayasei. You have an asay of v'amdu shnei anoshim. That's one asay that the aidim have to stand. V'hayasei, and there's another asay. What's the second asay? Es Hashem alakachatiro. L'rabbi is talmidei chachamim. Right? You have an asay to be mechaber talmidei chachamim. So you have one assay up against another assay de Kavod Torah adif. Then the assay of Kavod Torah is certainly stronger, and because it's stronger, why is it stronger? Because it's not for the Talmud Chacham, it's for Torah. You can be Mechaber Torah itself. Talmud Chacham embodies, represents Torah. What do we have in the end of Makis? Right? The Gemara says, Kama te pshoi hani bavloi, to mekaimi mekama sefer Torah, v'le mekaimi mekama gavar rabba. Right? They stand up for a sefer Torah, but not a gavar rabba. So a gavar rabba is a living Sefer Torah. So that assay of Kavod Torah is certainly more powerful than the assay of Amdu Shnei Anoshim. So in this case, Ameimar sat Rav Yemar down even b'shas the Eidus, which is really interesting. Like to be able to measure an assay, yeah, it's the Rambam in Pirush Mishnayos and Pirkei Avos says, "Einatan Yedeya mat Nischarin Shel Mitzvos." He says it actually refers to assays. You never know which assay is more reward, you get more schar for. Why not? Because by einshin, you can deduce from the harshness of the punishment how chomer the lav is, right? So if on an aveira you get karis, and in one aveira you get malchus, so obviously the karis, the aveira of karis, is worse because the punishment is worse. So you can evaluate, you can calculate from the punishment and see how chamer the Aveira is. That's when it comes to Aveiras. Lavim, or those things. But Assays, since there's no punishment, there's no way to measure it. So Mamela, there you go. So Mamela, so what? So therefore, you never know. But here the Gemara says, say the Kavod Torah adif. It came just in time, Rav Sholem. Tonu Rabbanon, huh? Right.
So, HaKadosh made it because if we can put a price tag on different mitzvahs, everybody would go.
We'll choose the best mitzvah.
Yeah. So,
saying there was a strategy behind it. Yeah. Right.
It's not black and white.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Zudi Gemara Vayta. Tonu Rabbanon. We're up to 5 lines to the bottom. Tonu Rabbanon. Menayin l'dayin. How do I know that a dayan shaliyasa sanei goyrin ledvarav, that if he makes a mistake, he should admit his mistake. He shouldn't start defending a ruling that he gave if he realizes afterwards that he made a mistake. Yeah? How do I know that he shouldn't defend with rayas a ruling that he gave, an opinion that he gave, even though he realizes he made the mistake? Tamad leima midvar sheket tirchak. Because midvar sheket tirchak.
I should play the Marvelous Midos machine song.
Midvar sheker tirchak, that tell a lie.
Milk, if we spilled milk.
Yeah, if we spilled milk, right. Yeah. Oh, I haven't heard that in a long time. You grew up with that?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Anytime I told a lie, my mother let me know what that song.
Yeah. So, what's interesting is, I remember a Maisa. Shemata al Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. Gadol Ador. I was at his Levaya when I was 13 years old. I was in Eretz Yisrael then. So Reb Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, when he was interviewed for a job at Yeshivas Kol Torah, where he taught for almost his entire life, so they told him to come give a shiur. He came, gave the shiur, and in the middle of the shiur, somebody asked him a kasha. A bacher asked him a kasha. Shlomo Zalman thought for a moment, and he said, Psh, I don't have an answer to that kasha. You just slugged up my entire shiur. Yeah. Imagine, courage, right? He's standing in front of a whole yeshiva, mechaber him with a shiur. He knows that he's on a trial to see if they hire him as Rosh Yeshiva. And he said, made a mistake, and you ever heard the Maisa?
Sounds familiar, but I'm not. I don't remember the details.
And he walked off, came home, told his wife, for sure, it's over. And then, of course, a couple hours later, they knocked on his door. They offered him the job to become Shiva Kol Torah. So, bottom line, he told it over the years later. I have 2 volumes of Shlomo Zalman's biography, Maisalach. And he said that as the Bacher asked the kasha, he knew in his gut, it's such a good kasha, it fragged up his entire yesod. But he had 10 terutzim he could have said on the spot to protect himself, to pretend like, and nobody would have chapped. Nobody would have chapped. So the Gemara says, how do you know that a dayan... Midat ha'emet. How do you know a dayan who realizes, he made a mistake. He realizes, but he can get away with it. Nobody will know. He'll write a whole tshuva and nobody will chap. Yeah, shama, lefalpel, v'zeh. Yeah. So Shama the Akdama says the truth is always simple. It's always simple.
When you lie, you gotta lie again.
You gotta make papua. Yeah, it's ganz zu Sachen. Truth is always yashar.
When you say in Chochma vein Shuna,
yeah.
when do you say that pasuk as opposed to Midbar Sheker?
Why are they a stira? Why are they a contradiction?
Because you know what the proper way of Hakadosh Baruch Hu is.
Right.
So whatever you know to be the Te'emes is the priority, because that's what Hakadosh Baruch Hu holds. It's more than emes. Sometimes Yamis is not the right answer.
Right.
That's what Chafetz Chaim says.
What does he say?
It says midvar sheker tirchak, right?
Yeah.
Lie, we know you're allowed to lie for shalom. Teretz says midvar sheker tirchak doesn't say don't lie. It says distance yourself from falsehood.
Distance yourself from
right?
falsehood.
You got to look at the words very carefully. So Teretz says, by the way, that's why the Gemara doesn't even talk about lying right now. We're gonna talk about midvar sheker tirchak. It doesn't talk about lying. It talks about being not truthful.
Being not truthful is different than lying.
Lying for shalom doesn't mean you're not being truthful. You know what I'm saying?
Very interesting.
Yeah.
says any sheker. Any sheker. That's the idea, any sheker. Because the Kabbalah, הזוהר אומר, כל שקר זה מאפיל את העולם, זה גורם חושך בעולם. זה גורם שלא יראו את הקדוש ברוך הוא. Because
it creates mechitzas mavdilas. Yeah.
The Gemara in Shabbos Kuvdal says, emes yesh lo reblayim, sheker ein lo reblayim.
Right.
The Aleph and Mem.
Oh,
that's good. Yeah, that's right. The Aleph and the Mem and the Saf. Right.
The first, the middle, the last.
Yeah.
Plus the letters are solid, the shin, kuf,
Yeah. You know what's interesting? Between the Aleph and the Mem, how many letters are between the Aleph and the Mem?
There must be about 11.
13. And between the Mem and the Saf, there's always also 13. Till the Mem, and then from the Mem and the Saf is always 13. Also 13. Now you're going to go through this Gemara, from this Tana Rabbanan, you're going to have 13 statements about Midvar Sheker Tirchak. Huh?
You're counting Sophists.
Sophists also, yeah. So you're going to find, I think the Ben Yehuda says this, you're going to find 13 statements about Midvar Sheker Tirchak. So he says, similar to what you're saying, Raki, that between the Aleph and the Mem of emes, there are 13 variations of untruths.
Right.
And between the Mem and the Saf, there's also 13 variations of untruths. You know what I mean? So it could go under the banner of emes, like somewhere you found a crack in emes where you can communicate some sort of untruth.
Pesach.
Yeah, it's a Pesach, yeah. So the first one is, Menai l'dain shliyasa negor l'dvarav, v'dai makes a mistake, to have the courage to admit it and not defend it with false rayas. Talmud midvar sheker tirchak. Menai l'dain shliyeshiv talmud bur lefanov. Also, how do you know you shouldn't put somebody who's going to dray you a cup, hack you a chainik, yeah? Somebody who's going to I'm a aretz, and he's sitting there and he's twisting truths and messes up the truth of Torah. It's also an element of Dvar Sheker Tirchak. Menai l'dain shidei l'chaveiroi shu gazlan How do I know that even if it's true, the testimony you want to give is true, but your buddy, your partner, you're dying on the bench, or the aide that you're coming with to Bezdin, they are gazlanim. They're telling the truth, but they're gazlanim. Right, but they don't know. He's not a known gazlan. So Bezdin would have accepted him. But he knows personally the guy's a gazlan. Don't go with him. How do I know that if a dayan knows, he has a gut feeling about a court case, that they're lying. Now, if you examine and investigate, cross-examine the witnesses, you can't poke a hole in their testimony, but something about their testimony smells bad. Okay? But you can't quite put your finger on it. Yeah? Right? Anyways, Eidim are being made, so let them, the Eidim are the ones who are bringing this testimony. Oh, okay, let them deal with that. They'll be responsible for bringing this kind of testimony to me, and I'll just paskin and not get involved and not order. It's also an element that if you feel that there's some lie going on, you can't put your finger on it, don't paskin that case. Remove yourself from the case. If Talmud sees that the Rebbe is about to make a mistake and there's a schus to the ani and a choiv to the usher, how do I know that he shouldn't be quiet? He should tell his Rebbe. Talmud says, make sure you tell the truth even if you have to confront your Rebbe. I'll wait till he finishes darshaning his whole Dvar Torah and why he's concluding to say mutter. But then afterwards, I'll stand up, I'll get all the covet, I'll disprove him, and now everybody will say, Yoel Gold did it. It's Yoel Gold's chidush. Right? No, don't allow it. Don't be so manipulative and allow it to get to that stage. Because why? Because you're allowing your Rebbe to continue with sheker, and you're also manipulative. There's also an element of sheker in you. Yeah. You put your ego before Torah. Yeah. Menayin. You should know that even if they give me $100, I won't say a lie. Money the Rebbe says, look, you know me, yeah? Character witness. What's a character witness? Somebody who knows, yeah? He knows you're
can vouch for you.
Vouch for you. So the Rebbe says to Talmud, look, you can vouch for me. I've been your Rebbe for 20 years. Yeah, we went through Shas together. You know I'm an honest guy. So look, this guy owes me money. I only have one aid. Could you do me a favor, be mitzvah for them? You didn't see the halva, but you trust me. So just be mitzvah for them. The Rebbe's asking a favor, right? Oh yeah, what kind of Rebbe is that? So the Gemara says, I don't know that you shouldn't be mitzvah. Talmud Leimer midvar sheketirchak. The answer is, it says midvar sheketirchak. Yes. So the Gemara asks, Hi midvar sheketirchak nafko. Avad b'shekurin k'meshaker. Is this really learned from midvar sheketirchak? Avadi is being meshaker be'edus. That's mamash. She's asking him to say edus sheker. It's not just midvar sheketirchak. It's an outright lie. Like Raki, you were saying, there's a difference, right? That's mamash the violation of the law of the san brachet shoker. I have one aid. You don't have to say anything. You just stand next to them. So it appears as if I have two aidim. You don't have to utter a word of sheker. I'm not asking you to express, verbalize, articulate any sheker. You just stand there to give an appearance. It's asur. Why? What about if a guy owes somebody else a money? I'm going, right? A guy owes him $100. He says, I'm going to say he owes me 200. Now he's going to only agree, he's only going to admit half of that because it's only a money. The truth is it's only a money, he knows it. Now he's going to have to swear because right? Because he set him up. He claimed he owes him 200, and the guy admitted the truth. I only owe you 100. He knows it's the truth, but he wants him to chayiv him a shvuah. Why? Because he wants him to swear about something else. But then another shvuah, he can't make him swear for no reason, but there's a halacha called Gilgul Shevuah. Once I make you swear legitimately in court on one topic, then I can be Megalgul another Shevuah. So he says, I'm going to set him up. So now he's going to be mechuyev to swear because of Moed B'Miktzas. And then I'll Galgul all of Shevuah mimakam acher. Then I'll roll. Gilgul means I'll roll on a Shevuah, another Shevuah, and this way I'll get the Shevuah on a different taina that I have on him.
Nice, yeah.
It's entrapment.
That's entrapment. Yeah, that's entrapment. Talmud loymar midvar sheker tirchak. So this is also because midvar sheker tirchak. By the way, I mean it sounds like it's outright sheker, right? It's outright sheker. He's saying you owe me 200. It's not even true, right? Why is it an outright sheker? And earlier the Gemara said if it's outright sheker, right? If the Rebbe asks a Talmud to be made falsely, where it says leisana barachet sheker. Right, that's a different pasuk. It's not midvar sheker tirchak. It's mamish sheker itself, right? So over here, the Gemara calls it midvar sheker tirchak. I guess it's not haggadas edus. It's just I say 200. It's midvar sheker tirchak. That is still in the realm of midvar sheker tirchak for some reason. I will deny it in bezdin. Then I'll be moide chutz lebezdin. What if he catches on to this tactic? Right? And the guy says, you know what, I could save myself. What am I going to do? I don't want it. He chaps the entrapment. And he catches on and he says, I'm not going to be moida to the 100 because then that's a trap. Because I'm moida b'miktzas, then a shvuah, and then I'll be megalgal another shvuah. You know what I'm going to say? Nothing. Kaifer HaKrol doesn't swear. Echperenu bebezdin. I'll deny the whole amount in bezdin, even what I owe. I'll go out of bezdin. And chutz lebezdin, there's no moed b'miktzas, right? It's only if you're moed b'miktzas in bezdin. And then I'll give him what I owe outside of bezdin. So the Gemara says, how did I know that he shouldn't do it? It's preventing that gilgul shvuah that he's trying to trap him in. Talmud loymar midvar sheker tirchak. Even that is also wow.
Why is that?
Because
It's a sheker.
No,
He's saying
to give edus in court. He has a shiur to give edus.
no, it's chayiv because he's chayiv 100. He says I'm chayiv nothing.
No, but also he has a
Oh,
shiur to
because
give
he's lying.
edus, right?
No, he's lying.
So we're talking about
Two opposites.
two baladinim, not edim. Baladinim, right? Two baladinim. One baladin tries to trap the other by saying you owe me 200. This way it admits to what he actually owes 100. So this guy chaps. He says I owe you nothing in Bezdin because he doesn't want.
Okay, well, there are no edim here.
No edim. We're talking about two baladinim.
So
What if you go to the court, he asks the Rabbonim?
Yeah. The plaintiff claims the defendant owes him 200, but he really owes him 100.
Yeah.
So why does he claim 200? Because when he admits to 100, he's going to be a moed b'miktzas. He's going to be chayiv shvuah. And once he's chayiv shvuah, he can be a megalgal another shvuah. That's what he's trying to do. He's trying to megalgal another shvuah. So he chaps on. The defendant says, I'm not falling into that trap. He's smart. He said, I'm going to tell you, I owe you nothing in Bezdin. This way I'm not going to be a moed b'miktzas.
He totally exonerates himself.
Yeah, in Bezdin. So he prevents the shvuah.
But that's a pure sheker.
But that's a sheker because his time is, I don't owe you anything. And that's also sheker. So what's the best way out of it, you're saying? So how should he save himself? Yeah? Al yedei sheker. כתוב פה לא. כתוב פה לא. אסור להציל את עצמך בכוח שקר. That's what it says.
Before you go to court, that's how you do it.
Wow. That's a theoretical right.
Yeah, old school fist fight.
Wow.
Yeah.
Stop.
Right? Okay, so מנין לשלושה. שנוישן מונה באחד שלאחד בלדין ושניים עדים כדי שיציעו מונה ויחלוקו. How do I know that if three people lent a guy money, right, and they don't have Eidim, so they'll split up. There are three people, right? So two of them will become Eidim, and one of them will pretend to be the Baldin, right, the only Baldin, and they'll come testify because of how do they know? Because they're the ones who lent him that money, right? So let's say a guy borrows $150, $50 from three people, each person. So now these people say, how are we going to get our money back? We need Eidim. We didn't have Eidim. So those three say, you know what? Well, two of us will become Eidim, and one of us will go and become the plaintiff against him, and he'll be the defendant. How do we know how to do that? Says the Gemara, Talmud Loimer Midvar Sheker Tirchak. Why? Because this single Baldin is going to have to pretend like you owe him the whole mana. Really, it was split up. But it's more than that also. These Balei Dinim are Posel Eidus, they're Negei B'Dover. Right? But they're pretending that they're Eidim. That's a sheker. Pretending they're Eidim. So a Posel that presents himself as a kosher, that's Midvar Sheker Tirchak. Shakran. Yeah. That's the Chiddush. Menayim l'shnayim shabo l'din. Two people come to din. Echad lobush smartutin. Ve'echad lobush itztelis. Basmei amoneh. One guy was wearing rags. The other guy is wearing a gorgeous Armani suit. Right? She'oimrim loi levoish k'moisoi oy halbisheyu k'moischa. You guys got to wear the same jacket. Yeah? Tamad loi midvar sheker tirchak. Why is that sheker? Because, you're impressing the dayan. The dayan will start leaning toward the guy with the Armani suit. He wants to impress, so it leads to sheker. Take off your gorgeous shoes. Right? What's a nice company shoe? Ferragamo. And then we'll get involved in the case. How do you know the dayan is not to listen to one baldin before the other? How do I know that he's not allowed to speak and tell the dayan why he's right or his tainus? Rav Kahana Masni, he says these last two halachas that a dayan is not allowed to listen to one before the other, right? Or to be matem devorav ladayan, or explain himself before the other guy's there. Rav Kahana mas loisiso shem ashav. He learns from that pasuk. Yep, loisiso means loisasi, right? Don't be goyrim to the dayan. Right, it's two ways. Not the dayan to listen to baldin, and not the baldin is also an issa to baldin, not to convince the dayan before the baldin his friend comes. Or his enemy. So pasuk in Yecheskel, Rav Omar zehabo barsho. This is referring to somebody who comes with a power of attorney, right? It's not good to send someone to be teveya his friend through the power of attorney. If you mamish are found in Wisconsin, and there's no way for you to get to the din taita, then a power of attorney is okay. That's what it's there for. But if you are sipping a pina colada at the beach and you are signing off the power of attorney to somebody else to come to Bezdin, that is loy toiv osa b'toich amav. Why not? Why not? Because when you're there, right, we can examine you, we can have a conversation with you. But if it's a power of attorney, the guy only presents the lines that you gave him. So you can't have a proper, thorough dentaira if somebody comes with the power of attorney. So it's only a b'di'evet to have that. But like a tchila, loy toiv if you send somebody barsha. Shmuel Amar
You have the right to face your accuser.
You have the right to face your accuser. There's also something we said about that. Yeah. Shmuel Amar zeh lekeach soda sheyesh aleho asikin. It's also somebody who knows that the property he's buying from the seller is not a kosher property, right? There are people and rumors that people are saying that the guy farnagled, stole, cheated on that property. Don't buy that. Yeah, and he is relying on his own strength to overpower all those asikin, these ayurim, these people who are coming and saying that it's not yours. He says, you know what? I'll keep it. Don't do that. That's also loy toiv also b'toich amav. It says the Gemara, we learned in the Mishnah that the Shevuos Eidus is only relevant to somebody who is fit and qualified to give testimony. Ask the Gemara, Lafukemai, what's it coming to exclude? Who is not fit to give testimony? There are a bunch of people who are not fit, but the Mishnah already mentioned a bunch of them.
Bird racers.
What is that?
Bird racers.
Gamblers.
Bird racers, gamblers, beautiful. Says the Gemara, right here, yeah. Fukemai Rabbi Lafuke Melech. Melech is not somebody who gives edus, because it says in the pasuk, "Soin tosim alecha melech l'im Sanhedrin." It has to be a masoy elecha. You have to be in awe of the king. The king doesn't go give testimony. That's not what he does. Achshav lebibi that they're bringing him to court, huh?
Oh,
Yeah.
because of cigars.
Wow, he's a melech.
Yeah, because somebody give him a cigar as a present.
Ach, toll. Yeah, this is a...
ציוני, הולך.
I never thought I'd hear from you that Bibi is a melech.
זה לא של החילונים.
Okay.
That's a backhanded compliment.
It's halacha by Melech. We have to know whether he has the power of life and death in his hands. Because then you say the bracha.
Aha. Of Baruch Shecholak Mechvoidoi Lebosser V'dam. Yeah.
So you have to know if he has the power of life and death in his hands.
Right. Very good. Very good. Yeah. I don't think anybody has the power today, except if you're the dictator, maybe Putin or somebody who's for sure Putin, right? Yeah.
South Africa, all of them.
These guys are not really. The Vilna Gaon is a famous vart. The difference between melech and a moishel. A melech, it says Kil Hashem HaMelucha, a moishel bagoyim, v'hoya Hashem l'melech hakoretz. Hashem will be a melech al kol haaretz b'yom hahu. Yeah, b'yom hashachad. So he says, what is it a melech and a moishel? Why does the pasuk switch from moishel to melech? It says moishel is a dictator. Moishel is somebody who rules with an iron fist over a nation, over a people that never elected him, never accepted him from their own will.
Nobody elected them.
If nobody elected you, that's a moishel. Achashverosh, yeah. Moshal gimel mashlu bekipa. The Gemara's lashon actually in Megillah is very good. Yeah,
Obama
cheated, right?
Yeah, he cheated.
Yeah, that's a moishel. We're gonna really go viral tonight, also. Yeah.
Obama, yeah.
Yeah.
He was like an American.
So the Vilna Gaon says beautiful pshat in the pasuk. He says Kil Hashem HaMelucha, a moishel bagoyim. Right now, Hashem's a moishel bagoyim.
His husband is a man.
His husband's a man, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Michael.
Who's this?
Michael Obama.
Michael Obama.
Ah.
Michelle.
Okay, that's relevant to yesterday's shiur. No.
Also the president of France.
France, yeah, Macron's a white man.
Wait. You saw that she slapped him. You saw that the frask she gave.
זה man also. זה לא סלאפ. זה עם שני ידיים. זה כמו שגברים עושים.
Wow.
תחשוב על זה.
Yeah.
שני הידיים. אישה מה עושה? אישה עושה עם יד אחת. עושה לך ככה.
Yeah.
נכון? אישה עדינה יותר. גבר עם שני ידיים.
Yeah.
Equals to the Mashiach.
Right.
זה גבר.
That was also in Sanhedrin, right?
Right.
That was in Barak Caleb.
Yep. Pnei Abdar. Yeah. The end of the Sanhedrin. Yeah. Omer Rapav Luka Melech Rach Yaakov Lafuka B'Sach B'Kuvia. Mandor B'Sach B'Kuvia. If you say that the Mishnah is Mamayit B'Sach B'Kuvia, Kolshkin Melech. Mandor Omar Melech. If he says Melech, maybe that's only Minat Torah of B'Sach B'Kuvia, which is not Minat Torah. Mediraisa Mirzi Chazi. V'Rabbanan Udapaslo. It's only a Psul D'Rabbanan. Therefore, if you're Mamayit Melech, it could be the Mishnah is not referring to Masach B'Kuvia, because that's a lower level psul.
What is to do with the melech?
A melech can't give testimony. Not give testimony. So when the Mishnah says only the Shevuos Eidos is only noyeg beru'uyin lehayid, what is it? Mamayit? It's mamayit a melech, because a melech is now And some say it's mamayit Masach B'Kuvia. If you learn the Mishnah is mamayit melech, then Masach B'Kuvia is not so pashut, because melech is Minat Torah. Masach B'Kuvia is the Rabbanon. So the question is, would Shevuos Eidos apply to a Masachik B'Kuvia? Even though Chachamim passled him from Eidos, but if he swears, I don't know testimony, I cannot help you, and he really does, he might still violate Shevuos Eidos. Because Minat Torah, he is qualified to give Eidos, it's only with the Rabbanon that he's not. So, the Gemara weiter. B'fnei Bezdin, v'shloi b'fnei Bezdin. We had a machloikis between the Meir and the Chachamim, right? Whether Shevuos Eidos is only chayiv if it's bebezdin, right? If the kfir is bebezdin. Chachamim say only bebezdin be'em piatzmo be'em pi'acherim, and Reb Meir is mechalik. He says the piatzmo is both, even outside of bezdin. Pi'acherim, it's only in front of bezdin. That was the machlokes in the Mishnah. Asks the Gemara, b'may kemiflagi, what exactly is the machlokes between Reb Meir and the Chachamim? Amru Rabbanon kamedid of Papa. Said in front of Papa, b'doin mino, b'dun mino v'uki be'asra kemiflagi. It's very interesting. We'll explain what this means. Dun mina umina means that whenever you learn a halacha from, let's say, Shevuos Eidos, is learned from Shevuos HaPikadon. So if you learn Shevuos Eidos mepi atzmoi, that is chayiv on a Shavua that he makes himself from a different parsha, Shevuos HaPikadon, so the question is, Dun mina umina, do you also learn other pratim of the halacha from Shevuos Apikadon to Shevuos Ha'edus? Or no, Dun Minav Uki Basra. You only learn the Iker, but the pratim, you come back to Shevuos Ha'edus and you learn the pratim from Asra, from the place you started in for Shevuos Ha'edus. So what says Rabbi Yisrael, Dun Minav Minah? Mepikadon ma pikadon mushba mepi atzmei chayiv. Just like a Shevuos Apikadon, you deny that somebody gave you a pikadon with a Shevuah. You chayiv. Af Shevuos Ha'edus mishbi atzmei chayiv. So you learn that mipi atzmei b'Shevuos Ha'edus, if you make a Shevuah on your own, without anyone triggering that, just make a Shevuah. You say, I don't know Edus, I'm not giving you Edus. You're chayiv on that, and we know. And you also learn from Shevuos Apikadon, ma Apikadon, bein bebezdin, bein shaloi bebezdin, Edus bein bebezdin, bein shaloi bebezdin. So too by Edus, it's bebezdin and it's shaloi bebezdin. That is Rabbi Meir. Because once you learn from Shevuos Apikadon, whatever pratim apply to the halacha of Shevuos Apikadon, you learn to Shevuos Ha'edus, because doin mina umina. You keep leaning into Shevuos Apikadon to learn all the pratim. Rabbanu Savi du mina v'okib asra. Now you learn the ikr from Shevuos Apikadon that you chayiv amushba piatzmai. But the pratim, not so fast. Ma pikadon mushba chayiv, yes. Af edin piatzmai mushba chayiv. V'ukib asra. But then after you learn that Shevuos Ha'edus is chayiv piatzmai from Pikadon, now you got to come back to Shevuos Ha'edus. You have to learn the pratim of Shevuos Ha'edus. Ma mushba piacherim bebezdin and shloi bebezdin loy. Af mushba piatzmai bebezdin and shloi bebezdin loy. So too, mushba piatzmai is similar to mushba piacherim. It's only bebezdin. So this is an interesting machlekes. Amar Rav Papa said, "Ima pikadon gamar l'Rabbanan, the kulam le'aplik d'mina mina." Everybody would agree that Yavadu you learn mina or mina, that you would learn that mush b'yatzma is chayiv ima atzar bezn. Alahainu time of the Rabbanan. The reason why the Chachamim say by Shevuos Ha'edus you need to deny it and swear it in bezn, even if it's mepiyatzmai. The ma'aseh b'kal v'chaymer. They learn from kal v'chaymer. What's the kal v'chaymer? What's mefurish in the Torah? By Shevuos Ha'edus, the Shevuah is mepi acherim, right? What's the pasuk by Shevuos Ha'edus? The pasuk by Shevuos Ha'edus is only talking about mushba pi acherim, which means somebody else is forcing you to make that Shevuah. Well, mepi acherim, no. Mepi acherim says, swear to me, and you say yes. That's enough, right? So that's what mepi acherim means. You're not really being motzi shvuah mepicha. So the Gemara says, ma mepi acherim chayiv. If the Torah is mechayiv somebody by Shevuos Ha'edus mepi acherim, then avada mepi atzmoi loy kol sheken avada you're chayiv mepi atzmoi. If you yourself volunteer the shvuah out of your mouth, and once you learn from kal v'chaymer, dayoy lovoy menadin lios kenidan. It's enough. You can't expand the halacha more than the source you learn it from. If in the source you learn it from, the halacha is mamish becherim bebezdin and shloi bebezdin loy. If you're learning piatzma from kavachayim piacherim, so if the piacherim is limited to only in bezdin, afmush piatzma b'fnei bezdin and shloi bebezdin loy. So piatzma also has to be dafka in bezdin, in front of bezdin, because dayoy. Okay, so Rav Papa, so you have two pshatim in how the Chachamim know that mushba mepi atzmai by Shevuos Ha'edus must be in bezdin. You wouldn't be chayiv if you swear outside of bezdin or Shevuos Ha'edus. One pshat is because you learn from Shevuos Apikadon and they hold doin mina v'uki basra, and the other is you learn from the kal v'chaymer. Amar Rabban Rav Papa. So Rabban said to Rav Papa, "Mi motzes amrus the lav b'doin mina amina pligi." You want to tell me that you learn from kal v'chaymer and they're not arguing in doin mina amina, but not kal v'pikadon Shevuos Apikadon agis ba'anoshim of anoshim. It says Shevuos Apikadon. It's a Mishnah later. Shevuos Apikadon is by anoshim and women. If they make it, they're all chayiv b'fnei bezdin, b'shloi b'fnei bezdin. Mepi atzmoi or mepi acherim, eino chayiv ad sheyichper boi b'bezdin divrei Rabbi Meir. V'chachamim oimrim bein mepi atzmoi bein mepi acherim kiven shekofer boi chayiv. So here we have the same machloikis, they echo the same machloikis by Shevuos Apikadon as they have by Shevuos Ha'edus. And the only way to explain the machloikis by Shevuos Apikadon is through doin mina mina and doin mina v'uki basra. So Rav Papa should l'chayra agree that Rabbanan hold doin mina v'uki basra. Says the Gemara, mush b'piacherim b'pikadon menolu Rabbanan dechayev lav de gomer la me'edus. How do I know by Mishbeach Cherim that Bekod Nir Chayiv? You have to learn from Eidos, because by Eidos is the parsha where it's Mishbeach Cherim. Shema Mino, Bedoin Mino, Minopligi. So the machloikis between Reb Meir and the Chacham by Shevuos HaPikadon must be explained, can only be explained with the logic of Doin Mino Mino, Doin Mino Basra. He and where it says you're right. From there you can prove from Shevuos HaPikadon you can prove it. But if you only would have had the Shevuos HaEidus machloikis, then you didn't have to prove it like that, because like Lamashma Mino, because then you could say that it's through a Kal V'chomer that we know, that the Chacham know, that Mushbi Atzma needs to be a Bezdin, because it's learned from Mushbi Achirim and it's Dayoy. The Chayovoin Azodin Ash-Shavua, and you're also Chayiv on Amazed. This is the big Chiddush, right? I saw somewhere, I don't know which 3 Averis, you're Chayiv a carbon b'mezidon, but this is one of them. I don't remember what the other 2 are. But the one of the examples, few examples in the Torah, where you bring a carbon b'mezid, that's by Shevuos HaEidus. Menani Mili, how do I know? The Talmud Rabbanan Bekulon, never ben v'nelam. It says by all the Averis where you have a carbon oil of the Yored, right? Lamashal. Yediyas Atoma, right? Thomas Migdash V'Kedashav, Helam Tos Migdash. He says V'nelam. It says you're only chayiv a carbon oil of the Yored if you forgot either your Tameh or according to Rabbi Shmuel, even if you forgot that the Migdash is Tameh, right? V'kan lo never ba V'nelam l'chayiv al amezid k'shaygig. And here it doesn't say V'nelam, to be mechayiv on a mezid kashoygeg. So therefore, when the Torah gives carbon, is mechayiv a carbon on Shevuos HaEidus, since it doesn't say the word v'nelam, so you see, and it says the word v'nelam elsewhere, all the other places, so you differentiate Shevuos HaEidus from everywhere else, and you say over there it's only b'shoygeg, but over here it's even b'mezid. Oh, Rabbi Yoel, Baruch haba, Baruch.
Even for 10 minutes.
You know what? It's a big lesson. It's a big lesson. Even for 10 minutes, doesn't matter. Yeah. You know, I saw today a Vayemoyen video. I don't know if you watch Vayemoyen. Anybody watches Vayemoyen videos? Chazak Mo'od. Chazak Mo'od. So I saw from Reb Meir Simcha Sperling. אתה מכיר אותו? Chazak Mo'od. Vayemoyen.
He's famous online.
Online, I turned it he's gewaldig. And he said over, mamash on this nakuda, like it's a very beautiful idea. Shavuos is coming. So he said, Machlon and Killian both died. Right? Machlon and Killian both died. Okay. They married non-Jews. Right? They married non-Jews. Rus was Megayer later. They married non-Jews. Orp and Rus. So he explained like this. Who eventually became the grandfather of David HaMelech between Machlon and Killian? Which one, Machlon or Killian? Machlon. Who was Machlon married to? To Rus, right? And Rus insisted on becoming a Jew, and then she had Yibum done to her, right? There was Yibum. The mitzvah of Yibum and Rus, right? So the Yibum was because she was married to Machlon. Machlon was the trigger.
How could we know? Well, she was a shiksa at the time. That she
No, she was not shiksa.
No, she was. She was not a Jew. She became afterwards.
only would know me.
Only afterwards he says, Bashet Alechi Elech.
And then she becomes.
And then, yeah. Vateriki mesametzes iloleches. He says, okay, come. Yeah. But the point is, why was Machlon Zoicha that his wife, right, had Yibum because of him, which eventually led to the birth of David HaMelech? So Moira de Gevarti said, I was blown away. I had to text him afterwards. He said,
Machlon, listen, the Gemara says Machlon converted her without a bed din. So she's not.
so it wasn't the Jew. She wasn't a Yid.
She was converted. She went to the mikveh. כמו שהרמב"ם אומר, אדם יכול ללכת למקווה, ואם בלב שלו הוא מקבל עליו או מלכות שמיים, הוא יהודי. זה רמב"ם.
Yeah.
זה רמב"ם.
I would think it'd be a little hard.
Okay, so what you said?
So he said, אמר לי גזח, הוא אמר משהו מאוד מאוד חשוב. מאוד חשוב. You have to hear this. This is mamish. We have to live with this. He said that they both did wrong. They both did averos by marrying non-Jews. I mean, they wasn't supposed to marry. Kilyon married first. Machlon held off.
Right.
And even though Eventually, he caved in, and he followed in his brother's lead, but he knew it was wrong, and he tried for as much as he can, for as long as possible, to do his best to hold off. For that holding off, he gets schar. Hagam, he fell afterwards. He messed up. He flopped. But because he extended and fought a little more, a little longer with the Yetzer Hara, says that was the zchus that Machlon had, that Rus had Yibum, his wife Rus had Yibum, she eventually gave birth, became the grandmother. It's an amazing concept. So you're saying, the person says, you know what, what's 10 minutes? 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. You can't let that, it matters. It matters. It's Hashem's clock works very, very differently than ours. Yeah.
Kodesh Baruch Hu does not overlook anything.
Yeah.
So even the effort
Right.
one does to do an Aveira.
Right.
So he knows the Cheshbonos.
Right. Yeah. Eina Kodesh Baruch Hu Meina Hadafim Ela Shoyes. Is that somebody Daf Yomi guy made it up, or is that actually a Chazal?
It's what the local. Kodesh Baruch Hu does not overlook anybody's meisim.
Right.
So he doesn't withhold schar any specific nakuda that the person does.
Okay. Yeah, it's important to remember. No. Eina Kodesh Baruch Hu Mekapeach Schar Kol Beria. We call Beria.
It was rotten in Sanhedrin. We saw that.
What do we
took
have?
The 4 steps. Tzadivav. We took the 4 steps towards.
The Nebuchadnezzar, yeah.
I'm sorry. Right. So
Yeah. It was Radin we actually had a very hard time with, Reb Shol, talking about Batei Dinim and conversions.
I was right.
What do you got?
I was right there.
The Vizradin, who converted the Vizradin? Somebody converted the Vizradin.
It was rotten. It's Chaga.
Somebody
Because of
can.
the blood that boiled.
Yeah, but he killed 1 million Jews. Almost the Gemara's Cheshbon is. And he ran away and he was Megayer.
Agrees.
Right.
Agrees.
And we spoke about it. Like imagine Hitler came to a Bezin, must have been Megayer after killing 6 million. Very schwer. Yeah. That was not an easy Gemara.
No.
Yeah.
בית הלוי זה הגריס, נכון?
כן.
בית הלוי זה הגריס. הסביר שהם היו בגדר גר תושב, אלא שגם על דבריו קשה, שהרי יש ראשונים סוברים שבגר תושב וקצת דיני גרות. נוסף ביקשה רינת יצחק שיטת המלכת חינוך, שגם בגר תושב יש שלב שלא מתחתן בהם. זאת אומרת, גר תושב, הם היו בגדר תושב, הם התגיירו בלי בית דין. למה הם בלי בית דין? הוא אומר, ואם כן, כיצד אנחנו וכאילו התחתנו איתם, ולא זכיתי להבין דבריו, כי הם הולכים לומר שמעשיהם של נכון וכאילו היו על פי ההלכה. במשפטות זהב כתב, גם השיטה אומרת שרות ועורפה התגיירו, זה שהם התחתנו על נכון וכאילו, זה המשפטות זהב. זה הפרימגדים, נכון? ניתן להסביר שנעמי לימדה את רות את הדינים משום שהיא חששה ששם הגירות הייתה בגלל שהיא רצתה להתחתן עם בחלון, ואין זה גירות אמיתית לשמה. או שרות הייתה קטנה שהתגדרה, וכך גם עורפה, וכאשר עורפה חזרה אל עמה, היא מחתה וביטלה את הגיור שלה. והרב ל"ג פירש, אתה רוצה שאני אמשיך או לא?
אתה רוצה להמשיך?
לא. גמלבין פה. הרב המשך,
סובב את המצלמה.
אני?
סובב את המצלמה.
סובב, כן.
בקיצר,
יש פה סגן מגד שיעור.
בקיצר, הם היו בגדר תושב. הם היו בגדר תושב.
שכוח.
Waki need to put the...
תודה רבה. Okay, let's finish the Mishnah. ועל שיגיגוסו הם זודן העדוס. What do we have in the Mishnah? The Mishnah says that you also chayiv on the shoygig of the Shevuah, even if you intentionally denied giving edus. Hey chadami, what does that mean? Shigigosam zodin edus. What does that mean? Omer v'demarav. Ba'omer yudeyani sheshevuah zu asura. He says, I know I'm not allowed to swear this Shevuah. It's a Shevuah sheker. Because I know edus and I'm swearing I don't know edus. I know I'm lying. It's a Shevuah sheker. I'm missing one detail, what the consequence of it is. I'm missing that if I do make the Shevuah, I'm going to be chayav a carbon. That has the status of a Shevuah's shoygig. That's a shoygig. It's an amazing thing. And you chayav a carbon on that because you're missing that detail. But if you're mamish shoygig in gemurim, in other words, they taka were shoygig in the Isser Shevuah or even in the denying of the Eidos, then it's avada, they are potter. They're potter from a carbon. Why? We said in the Mishnah already, because of Adam b'Shvuah. If you forgot that you knew Eidos, then you weren't in the right frame of mind to make a Shevuah, to be chayiv on it. So that's why you're potter. Leimetanina levkada Ravasi asked the Gemara, why do we make a raya from this Mishnah to the halacha to the Ma'aser of Kahana and Ravasi? What's the story of Kahana and Ravasi? Remember the story? Kahana and Ravasi in front of Rav. After Rav would give the shiur, they start arguing. Rav said this, Rav said that. Each one would make a shvuah. I swear Rabbi said this, I swear Rabbi said that. And then Rav would come the next morning, and they would come to their Rebbe. What did you say, Rebbe? I said like Rav Kahana. I said, oh no, I made a shvuah sheker. Right? The Machayev carbon. So Rav would tell him, no, you're not chayev carbon because you weren't aware. B'shas you made it that you were in the wrong. So the Gemara says, "Lo, you can't bring a raya from this Mishnah to their story." Alfagav the Tanan, Itztrach. Even though this is a Mishnah, we still need Rav to teach us the halacha by Shevuos Bitoy in Rav Kahana Ravasi. Why saw that? I would have thought. Over here, it doesn't say Venelam by Shevuos Eidos, so that's why you need Shoygig Dumi the Mezid, and that's why the Mishnah patters. Even in a case of when it's a case of Shoygig Gemura, then you're potter. Why? Because it's not Dum Yud Amazed. You have to have an awareness. There's more of an awareness you have to have by Shevuos Eidos because it doesn't say Venelam. Avol Hasam Dechsiv Venelam by Shevuos Bit, it says the word Venelam. Means you're in a forgetful state. Afilush Goga Kol Shigas Koldu. Even Shigas Koldu, that's also Bechlal Achiyav Carbon. Kamashman Rav. No, even by Shevuos Bitoy, where it says Venelam, you forgot. It doesn't mean that you forgot b'shas techalois hashvuah when you made the shvuah. If when you made the shvuah that's not included in Venelam, that's already an oinus libach hanasach. If when you made the shvuah and the shvuah took effect, you verbalized the shvuah, you weren't in the right frame of mind of remembering that what you're saying doesn't hold up water and is untrue, then on that kind of shvuah's bitoy, you're also potter because it's not ha'adam b'shvuah. By the way, there's a beautiful ma'isa with Rebbetzin Kanievsky. We're talking about Machlon and Killian marrying out of faith. So there was a girl, she fell in love with an Arab.
Why?
Fortunately,
הרבה כאלה.
יד לאחים.
100,000 girls.
What, in Israel?
My uncle is one of my Yad לאחים.
What do they see in them? They're stupid
So,
and they smell bad.
what? Yeah, no, there's a serious epidemic.
They know how to talk עם מחשבה. They know how to talk. אתה החיים שלי, אתה הירח שלי, הירח, החיים שלי, השמש שלי.
Anyway, so the mother was devastated.
That could be a situation too, right?
Hayima, they were devastated. They had a scheduled chasana. The mother was devastated. She tried whatever she can to speak to her daughter's heart not to do
You
it.
gotta kill the guy.
You got to kill the guy.
You gotta
So
kill the
she,
guy. No, you have to.
right, she already hired a hitman, and before she told him to execute. No, I'm just kidding. Rocky's looking like, no, that's not the story.
That was a great story.
Now the Maisa goes. She says, "Why don't you come? Before you do it, just do me one favor. Just do me one favor. This girl's name was Riva. Do me one favor. Let's go to Rebbetzin Kanievsky. Alei Shalom." She says, "Okay." So she goes with the mother to Rebbetzin Kanievsky, and the mother pours out her heart. She says, "My daughter is marrying a non-Jew." From girl.
Why?
Marrying a non-Jew. And I don't know what happened to her. There's a juking cup, and please talk to her. So, the Rebbetzin Kanievsky looks at the girl. She says, "Look, I want to ask you for one thing. Marrying out is pretty serious. It's the most detrimental thing you could do for your soul. I want you to take upon yourself to say Tehillim every day." She says, "Oh, okay, Rebbetzin Kanievsky is not asking me, Okay, say Tehillim every day." She's like, yeah, I could say Tehillim every day. Then Rebbetzin Kanievsky takes her to Tehillim. She says, why don't we start right now? She opens it to a random kapitel. She says, let's just say one kapitel. Random. She just opens it up. And it comes to kapitel Mem Gimel. And it reads the following. Shafteni Elokim Veriva Rivi Migoy Loy Chasid.
Wow.
Meish Mirma Va'avla Tefalteni. Ki ata Elokai mo'izi lomo zenachtani. And immediately the girl saw the Hashem's hand. Rebbe Kanievsky had incredible siyata d'shmaya. She broke into tears. She broke off the shidduch. Yeah. Huh?